The first time you have a spiritual awakening, you will feel lost. You will feel confused. You will feel disoriented and you will feel disconnected. And that's because you don't know what's happening underneath the surface. You don't know what's happening in the background. And you're going to wonder, why is it so hard for your life to go your way? Why is it that it seems like everything in your life is falling apart? Why do you get this sense that every time you take one step forward, you're taking 10 steps back? And instead of empowering you, like spiritual awakenings are truly designed to do, your spiritual awakening is going to become a source of depression. It's going to become a source of frustration. And it's going to become a source of suffering. And based on what I've experienced and my clients' experience, that doesn't have to be your reality. That's why today I want to walk you through the 4 stages of spiritual awakening that I experienced and I see my clients experiencing. I want to share with you how these stages impact your well-being, how they impact your relationships, how they impact your finances, how they impact the quality of your life. And by the time this video is over, I want you to have my go-to strategies to navigate these stages with ease and with joy, because to be honest, when you're going through this process, oftentimes the last thing that you feel and that you think is available to you is ease and is joy. And I want you to have it. If you're meeting for the first time, hola, I'm Yenori Ponso. I'm a 4th generation Garifuna high priestess. And for the past 14 years, I've been leading and mentoring iconic Black women entrepreneurs to embrace joy, live their boundaries, and experience a life that's fully rooted in alignment. Having a spiritual awakening is a lot like exploring an iceberg. There is that small top that you see above the surface, and the deeper you go down, the deeper the iceberg goes. The more things you discover about it, the more things you see that you didn't even know existed. The depth of it becomes bigger and wider the more you keep on exploring. And that's exactly what's going to happen when you're going through your own spiritual awakening. Every time you go through a stage, you're going deeper and deeper into the iceberg, below the surface, beneath the surface that is your subconscious. So it's important that you know this, and you can be patient with yourself through this process, especially because you're going to go through it over and over again. When I began my spiritual journey, I remember feeling completely stuck. I was going through a huge period of depression in my life. My favorite uncle had just been murdered, and I was questioning everything about our reality. I was wondering why this quote unquote bad things were happening to me. I was upset and pessimistic because I didn't know what direction to go in my life. If you looked at my reality from the outside in looking in, you would have thought I had it together because I'm really great at achieving success and climbing the ladder of success. So I was living in Washington, D.C. I had a job as a director of communications around the corner from the White House. I was recently married and I lived in a beautiful apartment. So I had all of these material things in my life. And yet when you look beneath the surface of who I was fully lost. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I care about. I didn't know what brought me joy. I was so wrapped up in my titles and my accolades and all the things I was achieving that I didn't have any idea about me, about who I am. And I was very confused on my identity because I just knew how to be the things people had told me to do and taught me to be. And this is one of the things that I want to walk you through as we talk about spiritual awakenings, because the first stage that you're going to experience in a spiritual awakening is what I call the Blooming Lotus. Why the Blooming Lotus? Because the lotus is one of my favorite symbols in spirituality, because the lotus blooms in murky waters. Everything around the lotus may be like a mess. It may be a place where you're wondering, why is the lotus blooming here? And the lotus is blooming there. And when I think about the first stage of our spiritual awakening, that's what comes to my spirit, the Blooming Lotus. Because in that first stage, we start to look around ourselves, around our life, and we realize that everything can look a little bit like a mess. We may have all these achievements. We have all these things that we have accomplished. And when we look beneath the surface, we're wondering, what are we doing here? Because none of it feels like us. None of it feels true to us, to who we really are, and it is because it isn't. That's because one of the biggest challenges of being in that Blooming Lotus stage is people pleasing. When we are in that first stage of our spiritual awakening, we begin to open ourselves to see all the ways that we have been engaging in the energy of people pleasing. We've been saying yes to everybody and saying no to ourselves. We've been saying yes to opportunities. We've been saying yes to people. We've been saying yes to relationships. We've been saying yes to expenses. We've been saying yes and yes and yes to all these things that truly don't bring us joy. Why do we do that? One of the reasons why I find that we have engaged in this behavior is because we have this fear of being abandoned, this fear of being rejected, this fear of not being loved. That was my experience growing up. I used to do all these things for people because I was so afraid that they wouldn't like me and they wouldn't love me. I remember being a little girl and stealing money from my aunts so that I could buy things for friends so that they will accept me. And when I grew older, that translated into me saying yes to people and being in relationships way longer than I wanted to be because I was afraid to be rejected. I was afraid to be told no. I was that little girl again, thinking and fearing that I wouldn't be liked. And this is the first thing we begin to experience when we are having a spiritual awakening. We begin to see all the ways that we engage in the energy of people pleasing. And this is really challenging for us because we don't like to think that we are the type of people, especially as leaders. We like to think of ourselves as people that don't care about what people think about us, don't care about what people have to say about us. And now suddenly we begin to awaken to the reality that we do. And we start to see all the ways in which we not only care about what people think about us, we start to see all the ways that we go out of our way, all the ways that we are disappointing ourselves in order to pursue the validation of other people. And this is something that can feel really uncomfortable for us when we are in this process. When my clients learn these things about themselves, it always catches them by surprise because they don't see themselves in that light and they don't want to think of themselves like that. And when you are going through a spiritual awakening, oftentimes, especially in the beginning, you have this tendency to want to hide from it because you don't want to see yourself like that. And that's one of the reasons why it can be really difficult to experience a spiritual awakening with an awareness because you want to hide. You don't want to be honest with yourself about what you are and what you're doing. One of the things I want you to take away from this video is that each stage that you're going to experience when you're having a spiritual awakening has both virtues and it has vices. Have the courage to harness the power of your virtues. Be willing to step up to the vices so that you can be able to experience them with ease and not get lost when it feels uncomfortable. So when you're having the first stage of spiritual awakening, which is the Blooming Lotus, you're going to experience the following vices. The first one is shame, and the second one is helplessness. We just talked about one of the biggest challenges being people pleasing. And because you have this challenge with people pleasing, you are going to feel a level of shame because you have been taught that other people go before you, the other people go above you. Specifically, if you are an immigrant person, if you are a person that is Black or of color, you know what I'm talking about. We are raised to be taught that we got to take care of our parents, that our parents come first, that our mom comes first, that the children come first, that everybody literally comes first. So the idea that you're going to put yourself first and you're going to start policing yourself instead of pleasing other people can feel very daunting, can feel really uncomfortable and very unsettling. And because it feels like that, oftentimes it's difficult for us to step out of that pattern of behavior. And to step out of the pattern of behavior, we can harness on the virtues of this stage because there are very beautiful things happening during this stage too. It's not all quote unquote bad stuff. It's not all stuff that is negative or things that you don't like. During this stage, you're learning to harness some really beautiful things. For example, you're learning to harness the power of curiosity. Learn to look at yourself from a lens of love, a lens of acceptance, a lens of what's happening here? Why do I do these things? Why do I show up to life in this way? The first time you have a spiritual awakening, it's very easy to feel shame. It's very easy to feel helpless. It's very easy to feel like everything is happening to you and you're being punished. It's very easy to be in that energy of what I call being a victim. And when you look at the virtues of this stage, you can actually take a different perspective. You can reframe those experiences and see that what's happening is that you're learning to be curious. You're learning to look at yourself without judgment. You're learning to look at how you can internally validate yourself instead of relying on external validation from other people. You're learning to be willing. That's one of the beautiful things about being in the first stage of spiritual awakening is your ability to be willing to look at yourself with uncomfortable honesty. And when you see the things that you are finding, be willing to ground yourself in the knowing that you can harness your power and you can grow through it and you don't have to hide from it. That's one of the beautiful things that happens in this stage, and why it's very important that you know that there are vices, things that you want to be aware of so that you don't get lost in them, and that there are virtues so that you can harness those virtues and be able to show up to your life with ease and with joy, even when it feels uncomfortable. Because this stage is not going to show up once. You're going to find yourself going to the Blooming Lotus stage over and over again. Okay? And when you do, I want you to be prepared. I want to give you a journaling prompt that I utilize all the time whenever I'm in this stage so that I can stay grounded, I can be curious, and I can harness the willingness to look at myself with uncomfortable honesty. And it's this. I want you to write this down so that you can have it with you anytime you spot feelings of feeling lost, feeling disconnected, feeling confused, because that might be a sign that you are going through the Blooming Lotus stage of the spiritual awakening. Are you ready? What feelings or patterns emerge when I release the energy of people pleasing? And how can I experience these patterns or feelings without judgment? I'm going to say it one more time. What feelings or patterns emerge when you experience the energy of people pleasing? And how can you experience these patterns or feelings without the energy of judgment? Every single time you find yourself going through this first stage of a spiritual awakening, journal and reflect on this question, because it's going to give you insight into yourself that you can then utilize to help you navigate the stage. Because once you shine light onto the patterns and feelings that you're feeling and that you're experiencing, you can do something about it. The biggest takeaway from the first stage of having a spiritual awakening, which is the Blooming Lotus stage, is that you have to acknowledge your feelings. You don't look at how you are feeling. You don't look about why you feel like that. You don't look about how you show up to the world when you're having those feelings. Because when you are in this stage, you can impact your life in many different ways. You can find yourself using relationships to run away from yourself. You can find yourself continuing to people please and saying yes to others so you can say no to you out of fear of not being liked, out of fear of being rejected. When you're going through this stage, you find yourself putting yourself last on your to-do list. You find yourself having relationships that are rooted in you putting yourself last. So when you begin to prioritize yourself, these relationships begin to feel really uncomfortable because people are used to you being a certain way. And now you're starting to switch it up. You start to use your resources in a way that actually serves you, which can feel uncomfortable because you may have learned that you're not supposed to, quote unquote, spend money on you and you got to spend money on other people. So it could feel very difficult to invest in yourself. It could feel really difficult to take care of yourself and to do the things that feel good to you, like buying the things that you want to buy, no matter the price, because you're hearing all this conditioning in your head, because you're hearing that you got to please other people, you got to please other beliefs, you got to please other ideologies that may be out of alignment with you. And you can also find yourself not taking care of yourself, not putting yourself first, because that's what that is what's at the heart of the people pleasing energy. You don't take care of you. You don't look out for you. And this first stage is a really important stage because it's when you begin to look at yourself. It's when you begin to see who you've become. It's when you have to be available to see the love in you, because it's going to be really easy to judge yourself. So please make time to feel your feelings, to acknowledge your feelings, and to do it with grace and with ease, because that's the only way you're going to experience joy. Let's move on to the next stage. So after I went through the Blooming Lotus stage, I found myself realizing that I was constantly trying to meet other people's expectations. And this felt extremely exhausting, draining, and overwhelming. And when I started to look at what was happening, I discovered that I had changed and moved to a next stage in my spiritual awakening. I was no longer in the Blooming Lotus stage. Now I was in what I call the Grateful Survival stage. And this is really important because in the Grateful Survival stage, you're making progress. I realized that I wasn't people pleasing as much as I used to. I was getting better about saying no to other people and saying yes to myself. And at the same time, though, it became really clear to me that I was very much focused on meeting external expectations. I was very much focused on how do I keep on doing the thing other people want me to do, while at the very same time doing the thing that I want to do. And that means I was living a double life. On one end, I was saying yes to myself. And on the other end, I was still saying yes to other people. And it was tiring because you can't serve two masters. At some point, you got to pick who you're going to give your energy to. Because at some point, the things that you are desiring and the things that people desire for you to do are going to come at a crossroad. You're going to find yourself realizing that you can't do both. And that's what happens when you are in the grateful survival stage. And I call it the grateful survival stage because you're coming out of the Blooming Lotus stage, which is, it can be rough, y'all. It can be a rough place to be, especially considering everything that you go through when you are in that stage and everything that it takes for you to step out of that energy. Coming out of the Blooming Lotus stage, there's a lot of discomfort that you're going to discover in that stage. There are a lot of things about yourself you're going to see that maybe you were judging yourself for, you were judging other people for. I remember going through that stage and realizing that there was so much I had been judging other people for that I was showing up in. So many behaviors, so many habits that I was doing. I was the person I was talking about. So I call it the grateful survival because you have survived some really uncomfortable situations, uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable experiences when you come out of that stage. And at the same time, there's a level of gratitude that we're having because we see in our progress, we're seeing that we're making it far, we're seeing that we are showing up closer to the person we desire to be, and that feels good. And it's important to know that because one of the biggest challenges you're going to experience in this stage is overthinking. Raise your hand if you have been overthinking. My hand is raised if you're listening to this episode instead of watching it. I've experienced so much overthinking in my life because, again, of those fears of not being liked, not being accepted, being rejected, being abandoned. So I found myself constantly overthinking everything. What's the best way I can say this? And I can do this, so I will get this, and I will not ruffle any feathers. You layer on that I'm a Libra, and the Libra signs have this archetype that they're constantly looking to keep balance. And because of that, they have a difficult time making some decisions because they do not want to ruffle the feathers so they can keep their balance. They could keep this particular energy they like. So anyways, that leads to me having a lot of overthinking that I experience. And when I realized how powerful this overthinking was, I began to allow myself to step out of this energy. And being in the grateful survival stage is a stage that gives you that power. There are vices and virtues, just like the first stage that I want to walk you through. So first are the vices. The two biggest vices that you're going to experience in the grateful survival stage are guilt and overwhelm. Why? Guilt comes from our attachment to wanting to meet other people's expectations. I mean, you're coming from the Blooming Lotus stage where you have learned to people please. You have learned that people come before you. You have learned that you have this long to-do list and you are at the end of the to-do list, right? So naturally, there's going to be some discomfort when you exit that. There's going to be some challenges when you let go of that way of thinking and that pattern of behavior. And it's going to lead to feelings of guilt. It's going to be guilt because you are going to be thinking that you're doing something wrong. You're going to be thinking that you step in out of line. When you are going through spiritual awakening, a lot of what's happening is you coming into alignment with what we call the highest version of yourself. And the highest version of yourself is not something that's perched up in the ceiling and the heavens judging you. No, the highest version of yourself is going to your shadow self, going to the parts of you that you don't like and bringing the light of love into those parts with acceptance, with compassion, with grace. And when you are in the grateful survivor stage, you are doing exactly that. And that means bringing the light of love to that guilt that you're going to be feeling, that overwhelm you're going to be feeling. Why do you feel overwhelmed? Because you try to live a double life. I just told you that when I find myself in this stage, and I see this with my clients too, they are looking to live a double life. They want to do the thing for others and do the thing for them. And there's a point that comes at a crossroad because they can't keep doing both things. They have to pick. Either you go first or somebody else goes first. But y'all both can be first. There's only one first spot. Who is going to take it? And this is why the two biggest vices in the grateful survival stage is feeling guilt and feeling overwhelmed. And it's great news because there are also virtues here for you. And these are virtues that are designed to help you navigate these vices. These are virtues that are designed so that you don't get lost in the discomfort that comes from facing these vices. There are three virtues that I want to walk you through. Number one is compassion. Compassion is one of the beautiful virtues that you have here in the grateful survival stage because When you are releasing the attachment to not wanting to disappoint other people, it's going to be important that you're compassionate with yourself because you will disappoint other people. Up to this point, you're going to notice that you have been focused on disappointing yourself so that you don't disappoint others. And now the tables are about to flip. So that means that those people are going to be disappointed. And when that happens, a part of you is going to feel really bad. It's not going to feel good. And this is why compassion is so important. And when you are willing to see that you're invited to harness the energy of compassion, you can treat yourself with a different level of kindness, a different level of grace, and enjoy this process of being in the stage with ease and with flow. The second virtue of the grateful survivor stage is gentleness. When you are in this stage, you're going to realize that a lot of what you have learned, especially as a leader, is to motivate yourself through negative self-talk. You're going to learn that you have been taught that you got to be hard, that you got to go hard, that you got to bring your masculine energy to the table. You got to make things happen. And what you're going to discover in this stage is that you can bring the softness that is your divine feminine. You're going to realize that you can bring the tenderness that is who you are. And you can also harness its power. It is powerful to be soft. It is powerful to be feminine. It is powerful to be gentle with yourself and to treat yourself like you are your own child, to treat yourself like you're someone you deeply love, because the most powerful thing in the world is not money, it's love. When you have the energy of love, everything's effortless for you. And when you're used to wanting to validate yourself through external validation, when you're used to not wanting to disappoint other people, when you're used to meeting the expectations of other people, being able to be gentle with yourself, to be compassionate with yourself is extremely important. And when you are in the grateful survival stage, you are cultivating those virtues for yourself. The third virtue you're going to have here is expansion. Because then when you stop looking to people please, when you stop looking to meet expectations of other people, you're going to be expanding within yourself into yourself. You're going to see the ways that you can validate yourself. You're going to see the ways that you can not disappoint yourself. You're going to see the ways that you can start to meet your own expectations instead of other people's expectations. And that's going to expand you. It's going to expand you into parts of yourself that before you may not have experienced, which is one of the beautiful things about being in this stage is that it sets the tone for your own expansion. And I want to leave you with a journaling prompt for this stage, because when you are here, you want to watch yourself. You want to pay attention to yourself. I believe it's the Greeks that talked a lot about know thyself, which they got from the Egyptians, by the way. So all these ancient civilizations knew the power of knowing yourself, and we can harness that power. So when you're going through this stage, when you are in the grateful survival stage, here's a journaling prompt for you to ask yourself. And it goes as follows. Make sure you write this down, okay? What thoughts or feelings arise when you release the energy of overthinking? And how can you show up to these thoughts and feelings with compassion and gentleness? What thoughts or feelings arise when you release the energy of overthinking? And how can you show up to these thoughts or feelings with the energy of compassion and gentleness? Write that one down. The biggest takeaway of the second stage of having a spiritual awakening, which is the Grateful Warrior stage, is that you get to let go of meeting the expectations of other people. When you let go of the expectations of other people, you create space for yourself. A lot of what happens in this stage is to shed. You are shedding all versions of yourself. You are shedding all beliefs that you have. You are shedding all relationships that you have. You are shedding all ways of showing up to your finances, showing up to your resources. You are shedding an old version of you. You are going through what people call the death of the old self. And you experience that in some extent during each stage of your spiritual awakening, particularly in this stage, because you are facing yourself and you're saying to yourself, I'm not going to live a double life. I'm not going to put people above me and try to force myself on the side. I am going to take leadership and ownership of myself. And I'm going to put myself in that number one spot on my list of my life. And I'm going to lead with me, lead with my joy. So when you are going through the stage, make sure that you hold that space to let go of other people's expectations. Clear room for you. When you let go of what other people want you to do, you suddenly realize you have a lot of space and time and energy to do the things that you want to do. And that's what this stage is here to teach you. Now, most of the women that I work with, which are Black women entrepreneurs that are business owners and are committed to embracing joy, living their boundaries, and experiencing life rooted in alignment, this is when they start to bring me in. This is a great time for them to seek support and be supported. Because when you stop looking to meet the expectations of other people, it's important that you surround yourself around people that can support you in your new lifestyle. Because what's going to happen when you are in that grateful survivor stage, your circle is going to change. People are going to come in and out of your life because you're no longer going to be in alignment with them. The person that they knew that was focused on making them happy is not focused on making yourself happy. Therefore, some people are not going to like that because they like being number one and now you are number one. So it's important that at this stage, you start to think about support. You start to think about who are the right people for you to be around so that they can hold you, they can witness you, they can support you because your circle is going to change. When I was going through this stage, is when I started to see a therapist. The very first time I went to spiritual awakening, I started to see a therapist right around this time because I wanted to know, well, what is going on? Why are things happening like this? What's going on with me? Why are people leaving my life? Why do I feel like I'm being abandoned? Why I feel so like out of whack in my life? And the second time I had a spiritual awakening, around this time is when I hired a coach. So this is something that you want to consider. And if you would like to work with me, I am currently taking on clients to my Love Offering, the Self-Trust System, and there's a link in the description box below. If you would love to be a part of it, it is a self-paced experience, and you and I will get to have some time together so that I can help you utilize the system so that you can experience your spiritual awakening with ease and with flow. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check the description box below and you click the link to sign up and have a call with me and we can explore our alignment. So here's the thing. After going through the Grateful Survivor and finding myself shedding this old ways of believing, this old ways of thinking, this old ways of feeling that I had learned, I realized that I was having a very difficult time with perfectionism. And because of this difficult time with perfectionism, I noticed that I wasn't taking bold action. What does that even mean? I wasn't following my intuition. I wasn't trusting myself. There were things I wanted to do. There were things that I was yearning to step into, and I was afraid. For example, around this time, I really had this desire to quit my job at the time, well, the job I had, because it wasn't my job. I wanted to quit that job and step out of that role and just move to a different city and explore myself, like get deeper into knowing who I was and go on business for myself. And I was so afraid of that because I had all of these beliefs about what it meant to be successful, what it meant to have a quote unquote good job, what it meant to be out on your own. And I was afraid. I was very, very afraid of that. And I wanted to do it perfectly. I wanted to guarantee results. I wanted to know the outcomes before I stepped out on it. I wanted to eat the fruit that I was planting the seed, and that's not how it works. And this is what you begin to experience when you are in the third stage of a spiritual awakening, which I call the Willful Warrior. Why the Willful Warrior? Because in this stage, you have been collecting tools. You've been collecting tools from your previous stages. You have learned quite a bit about yourself when you were in the Blooming Lotus stage, and you've also learned quite a bit about yourself when you were in the Grateful Survival stage. And now you have these tools. You know how to release the energy of people pleasing. You know how to release the energy of overthinking. And now it's time for you to collect these tools and put them into practice and go all in on the things you're learning about yourself to make sure that you are living in alignment. And what you're going to experience when you are at the door of the Willful Warrior stage is perfectionism. You're going to find yourself having the perfectionism as a big challenge because you like to get results, you like to get things done. You are a leader after all. You are used to leading others. You are used to leading teams. You are used to leading your household. You are used to getting a certain level of success. You have a standard for yourself. And that's no different now that you're taking on your own healing. That's no different taking on your own spiritual awakening. And you want it to be perfect. And you may not realize how attached you are to that until you get here, until you get to this third stage of the spiritual awakening. Because in the Willful Warrior stage, you are all about embodying. You are looking at yourself. You are looking at your actions. You are looking at your patterns. You are focused on how you can improve things. You are refining your routines and you're refining your rituals. You are really honing into what it takes for you to show up as the woman you desire to be. And perfectionism is going to be the biggest challenge you're going to experience in this journey, in this part of your spiritual awakening. And that's okay, because we have virtues and we have vices that we can leverage and we can be aware of, so we don't get lost in the energy of perfectionism. And so we can navigate this stage with ease and with joy. The two vices that you're going to experience in this stage is paralysis and self-doubt. Why paralysis? Because most people that experience perfectionism paralysis, where they don't want to do anything unless it's perfect. I have clients that I've worked with in the past that they wanted to launch a business, and they have been working on their business plan for years, and years. They have dotted every I, crossed every T, double checked it, triple checked it, and it's still an idea on paper. Why? Because for them, it's not perfect yet. And because it's not perfect, guess what? They are paralyzed in this process. I have worked with clients that wanted to move out of the country, and they have planned their move. They have looked at so many countries. They have studied all of the systems in those countries, all the pros and cons, and they were still living in the place they were. Why? Because they were paralyzed by the perfectionism. They didn't think it was perfect yet. They didn't have the perfect amount of money in their bank account. They didn't have the perfect job waiting for them. They didn't have the perfect partner to go with. They were waiting for things to be perfect, and they weren't giving themselves the permission to step on faith. And that's what happens when you are in this stage. You're going to realize all the ways that perfectionism impacts you. You're going to realize all the ways that perfectionism affects you and how you can step out of that energy. And that's when the virtues come in. There are 3 virtues that we're going to talk about that show up in the Willful Warrior stage, which is stage number 3 of your spiritual awakening. The first virtue that you're going to cultivate is openness. Being open to things not being perfect. Being open to taking action without having all the answers. Being open to showing up even when you doubt yourself. Being open to knowing that everything is unfolding in your favor, even when it may not look or feel like it. It's a really powerful virtue to have, because in life, you will experience moments where things are not going to feel perfect. In life, you're never going to have 100% of the information. And that cannot be the reason why you don't take action. So it's very important that you harness this virtue. The second virtue that you're going to cultivate in this stage is enthusiasm. Have you ever been around someone that's enthusiastic about what they're doing, that literally exudes that energy of, oh my God, I love this? Those are the best people to be around, because you get enveloped in their enthusiasm. You can feel the love they have for what they are creating. And suddenly you want to be a part of their transformation. You want to be a part of whatever they are co-creating. And they attract the right people for whatever they're doing because they are enthusiastic. So while you may experience self-doubt as a vice in this stage, you also have enthusiasm available to you. So that when you release that self-doubt, you can be excited about what you are creating. You can be enthusiastic about what you are creating. And as a result of that, you're going to call in the right people. You're going to call in the right environments. You're going to call in the right synchronicities for you. That's how this is all helping you awaken to yourself. It's helping you awaken to the parts of you that create circumstances for your life to be easeful, joyful, and beautiful. And when you are aware of this, you can harness these virtues. The last virtue you're going to harness in the third stage is confidence. I hear from so many of my clients that they want to feel more confident. They are already very confident women. I don't know if you've ever been around Black women, baby, but we are very confident women. And at the same time, many of us have built our confidence on top of insecurities. We built our confidence on top of fears. We built our confidence on top of people pleasing, overthinking, perfectionism. And what you are able to do in this stage is to build your confidence on a new foundation, on a foundation of enthusiasm, on a foundation of openness, on a foundation of willingness, on groundedness, on a foundation that is all about you being truly who you are, authentic to who you are being in the world. And the confidence comes from you doing the same thing over and over again, no matter the outcome, no matter the result, which is what embodying is all about. That's why this third stage is another stage where my clients call me in to work with them, because here they're refining their systems. Here they are refining their routines and their rituals. They've been doing them for a while. Now they want to make sure that they are aligning them with the version of themselves that they are growing into more and more, that they are expanding into more and more. So if you are thinking about working with me and you are finding yourself in your Willful Warrior stage of your spiritual awakening, make sure you click in the description box below so that you can book a call with me, because it's a great time for you to bring on the right support, to witness you, to hold you, and to help you refine those routines, refine those rituals, to make sure they are aligned with who you desire to be, so that when you have your spiritual awakenings in the future, because this is not a one-time thing, you are prepared. Speaking of being prepared, here is a journaling prompt for you so that you can learn about yourself, you can witness yourself, and grow whenever you are in this stage. Are you ready? What emotions surface when you are releasing the energy of perfectionism? And how can you utilize this insight to align yourself with valued-based routines and rituals? I'm going to say one more time. What emotions surface when you are releasing the energy of perfectionism? And how can you leverage your insight to create value-based routines and rituals? Make sure you write that down so that you can reference it anytime you find yourself in the Willful Warrior stage of your spiritual awakening. Remember, progress, not perfection, is what moves you towards your desires, towards your dreams, towards the things you're looking to manifest. And all is progress. I used to think that surrender was about giving up control. And when you are a leader, when you are someone that's used to being in charge, nothing will send you faster into some sort of panic than letting go of control. Because you may have learned, like I did, that other people can't do it like me. The other people can't have the thing the way I want it to be done. And because of that, the idea of surrendering control was extremely debilitating for me. It used to send me into a panic. It used to feel very stressful. It was feel really, really uncomfortable for me. And one of the things I learned was that maybe what I thought was the right way of doing things, the best way of doing things, maybe that wasn't it. Maybe God, universe, source energy has a greater plan in place that is better aligned for my life and for humanity altogether. And this is what I learned in the fourth stage of my spiritual awakening, which is the rising phoenix stage. Why the rising phoenix stage? By the time you get to this place, you've been burning some ish down. You have gone through people pleasing energy and you said no more. You have released that energy. So that means that you've been paying attention to your feelings. You've been looking at how you show up in the world. You have gone through the wait for survivor stage where you have looked at how you meet other people's expectations. You've stepped away from that energy, release energy of overthinking, and focus on releasing the thoughts that don't serve you. And you have also spent time embodying the woman you desire to be in the Willful Warrior stage, opening yourself up to possibilities and really revisiting how you grow your confidence, being able to be enthusiastic about your life, being able to be open to who you're desired to be more of. So you have been burning things down. You have been literally going through the process and like shedding things, letting go of things, which is what happens in the Willful Survivor stage. And you have been embodying this new version of yourself. So there's this burning that's been happening in your life as a result of your transformation. And for many of us, when we are going through our spiritual awakening, especially the first time, it does feel like it's a whole burning that's been happening. And it's necessary because you are burning the old to create space for the new, which is exactly what the phoenix does. The phoenix burns itself down to ashes to be born anew from those ashes. So it's not wasted. Everything that you've been through is not wasted. And when you are in this last stage, what I call the rising phoenix, you are starting to integrate what you've learned about yourself into every area of your life. What you learn about people pleasing, you are not only taking that energy into your well-being, where you don't people please on your well-being, you're taking it into your business, into your resources, into your relationships. What you have learned about releasing overthinking, You are bringing that into your business. You're bringing that into your relationships. You're bringing that into your family dynamics. You are taking everything you've been learning about perfectionism into every single area of your life that matters to you the most. And that's what integration looks like. That's what being a rising phoenix is about. It's about integrating all the things you've learned into every single area of your life that you care about so that you can show up as that person no matter what's happening. And similar to all the other stages, you will face a big challenge here. And the biggest challenge you're going to experience is the fear of the unknown, along with the attachment to outcomes. Because you're used to wanting outcomes. We live in a society that's very much, I'll see it to believe it. And you are no different. You have lived in this society, so you have absorbed some of those beliefs. And when you are in this rising phoenix stage, you're going to start to burn that down. You're going to start to let go of this idea that you got to have the outcome the way you want it. Because oftentimes we are getting the thing we desire. It just looks different. It's wearing a different outfit. I wanted to move to Honduras and be here with my family. And I am in Honduras and I'm living with my family. And it's wearing an outfit that sometimes I don't like. There are dynamics between me and my family that stretch me, that wasn't in my picture. There are things that I may see around the house that I don't like, that I didn't envision in my perfect picture. More times than not, you are getting exactly the thing you pray for. It just looks a little different. And when you focus on how it looks different, you don't pay attention to how it does look like what you want. And you don't harness the beauty of being in the present moment to experience it. And that's why this stage is important, because it comes to show you that it's not about the outcomes. It's about you. It's about how you are showing up to the moment. It's about how you are showing up to the things that you desire. It's about how you are showing up to this life you're co-creating with God. It's about you and how you will show up to you. How you will integrate you into every area of your life when it feels uncomfortable, when it feels hard, and when it feels unfamiliar. There are two vices that you want to be aware of here. Number one is resistance. That's resistance to letting go of those outcomes, the attachment to outcome, letting go of things being in a perfect way. And the second one is the denial of your pace. So many of us want to be worried about step 1,000 when we haven't taken step number 5. We want to be faster. We want to be further ahead. I see this with my clients all the time. One of them I'm thinking about specifically. I tell her, since I've known you, you've never wanted to be exactly where you are. You always wanted to be further ahead. And because of that, it's difficult for you to get where you want to be because you're not learning the lessons that are going to take you there because those lessons are here in the present. And that's why it's important that you know those prices so that you can notice them and you don't get lost in them. And there are 3 virtues that can help you stay focused. The first virtue is equanimity. One of my favorite words. Equanimity means to be calm in the midst of chaos. And when you're going through the rising phoenix stage, it's going to feel chaotic. It's going to feel chaotic because everything is burning down. Things are coming out. Things are coming in. Things are being rebuilt. It's going to feel a little chaotic. So it's important that you have equanimity, that you can remain calm when it feels like that you can remain grounded, that you can be the calm in the midst of the chaos, that you can be the eye of the storm so that you don't get caught up in it. The second one is patience. Things take how long they take. I tell my clients this all the time. Things take how long they take. Be patient with yourself because the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit. Every season has its timing. It doesn't move faster just because you want it to. Spring doesn't come faster just because you want it to. Summer doesn't come faster just because you want it to. Winter doesn't leave faster just because you want it to. Fall doesn't move faster just because you want it to. Everything takes as long as it takes. And that also includes you. Moving at your own pace is so important. So when you are harnessing the energy of patience, you can release the denial of your pace. You can honor yourself. You can release the resistance to being where you are, and you can be in the present moment. Which brings me to the last virtue that you're going to cultivate here, and that's flow. Flowing with life, flowing with joy, flowing every day, knowing that everything is unfolding for your highest good, knowing that on the other side of your rising phoenix stage, another blooming lotus waits for you. That is a beautiful thing to be aware of. So the journaling prompt I want to give you here, because we're going to get one to help you, is this. What shifts do I experience and feel when I release the attachment to outcomes and the things I cannot control? And how can I create space for ease and flow? What shifts do I experience and feel when I release the energy of the attachment to outcomes? And how can I create space for ease and flow? Remember, surrender is about trusting yourself, trusting God, trusting timing, and trusting that everything is unfolding for your highest good. It's not about being afraid of letting go of control. If anything, it's about tapping into a whole new level of control, where what you are controlling is you, is how you show up to the present moment. And that's the type of control that I'm about, because that's the only thing that I can control. Okay? When you are in this last stage, you have a freedom about you. You have a lightness about you, because you're not trying to control other people. So you are letting other people do them, be them. You are allowing them to be who they are. You're not getting in the way. You are moving at your own pace. You're taking up space because you know you. And when people are doing things that before would hurt your feelings, you don't take that personally, because you are aware of who you are. And now you can see them how God sees you. You can see them how God sees them. You can have compassion for them. You can have grace for them without taking anything away from yourself. You don't tolerate people. You are aware of who they are and you accept them for who they are and you let them be. That doesn't mean that you are staying in situations that don't serve you. No, it means you surrender and that with greater joy and greater ease, because you know you can only control you. It is a beautiful stage to be, as chaotic as it can feel. It is the beginning of you setting a new foundation for your life, so that when you finish this specific fourth stage, you are prepared to go through the process again. Because the 4 stages of spiritual awakening have a cyclic nature. They continue to happen over and over and over again. And that's how I can share these things with you, because I've been through this process a bunch of times. Every year I go through some shape of a spiritual awakening, because I'm available to see it. I can catch the signs, so I can spot them. I can see what's going on. I don't feel confused. I don't feel depressed. I don't suffer through it anymore, because I know what's happening. And I want the same for you. Each one of the stages is transformational and can truly support you. And if you want me by your side as you're going through these stages, I want to encourage you to apply for a session with me to talk, to see if the self-trust system is the right space for you. It's a 12-month self-paced experience where you can learn to harness your own self-trust. So anytime you're experiencing a spiritual awakening, you show up to it as the most authentic, joyful, and powerful version of yourself. It's based exactly on my experience and the experience of my clients. So if you are anything like us, you're going to feel seen. You're going to be heard. You're going to feel felt. It's going to be the great time for you. So if that's you, make sure you click in the link in the description box below so that we can chat and explore our alignment. Each one of these stages transforms not only how you see yourself, how you see your life, how you see your relationships, your finances. It transforms how you lead the people around you, how you lead your teams, and more importantly, how you lead yourself. So head to the comments below and tell me, in which stage are you? What is your stage? So that we can talk about it. We can talk about the virtues and the vices and the things you want to be aware of as you're experiencing your stage right now, because it's going to change. We're not in one stage forever. And I want to make sure that whenever you find yourself in one of these 4 stages, you feel supported. Listen, on this screen somewhere, there is a video where I talk about the 9 signs that you've experienced spiritual awakening. Make sure you watch that if you want to know if you're currently going through a spiritual awakening, so that you can find out more about your stage and what this process is like. My name is Yanori Pauso. I'm a 4th generation Garifuna High Priestess and a mentor to iconic Black women entrepreneurs embracing joy, living their boundaries, and experiencing a life rooted in alignment. And I'm here to make sure that you see things clearly. Thank you for joining me today, mis amores. Hasta luego.